Yeah,
There it is. Question for Dale. So thank you very much for all the insights on the human, the people side of your journey in that there. I think that's something we need a lot more talking about here. Based on your experience or knowledge to date there, for other end user companies there, any advice or lessons learned we have to think of as we go through our digital journey when it comes to the people side, culture, change management?
Are we on? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, first of all, people don't know why they need to do this. And there's fear associated with it in some people. People think that we're trying to automate their jobs away. So there's some people that you just don't want on your team. You'll try and connect with them. They're not going to buy into what you're trying to do. There's others who you will be able to connect with them that they're going to get it and they're going to want to support you. So most naturally, you want the ones who just gravitate to it and they get excited by it. And then you may need to neutralize somehow some of the folks that could be toxic. You know, sometimes you just don't want a toxic player in your locker room, and you need to find a way to get them out of the equation. Ideally, you find those kind of closet leaders, you know, the people that are sitting around in the cafeteria or wherever it is, and when they take a position of it, 9 other guys not, and they want to buy into what that guy says. So you be strategic in who you're getting in, because this is not something that you're going to be able to get the whole organization bought in. You need to pick your team carefully, and they need to be on board and have that vision. And then you have to be very aware that you're stealing somebody's cheese, probably. There's always somebody else who thinks that they're supposed to be the ones doing it, and not you. That's why I've got the rogue hat, because I am the rogue guy at Honda. And when they say, hey, what happened? This is supposed to be ours, and everybody says, well, hey, your cheese got moved. Well, I got your cheese. I took your cheese. It's in my backpack. It's mine now. And you have to be prepared for that, but then you have to find a way to get them back involved again, too. They have to be involved. You can't fly solo. You have to find a way to get those people back involved again.
One of my questions actually for the panel was if you have any recommendations on how to deal with objectors. How do you win them over? And it was a good segue, actually, Dale. If they don't come around, are objectors eventually released, or do you find another home for them somewhere?
Well, that depends on your own corporate culture.
Okay.
I would say you find a way to do your activity without their involvement in an organization like ours, or find another, if your executive sponsorship can help to relocate some of the toxic personalities, that's a good thing. I'm not going to tell you to let people go, but if you're an organization that happens, there may be a case where it's better for the team long term, that you don't want to keep someone in who's basically causing more problems than they're solving.
Yeah, agreed.
I think that you do need to, I don't know if I'm on there or not, you do need to start with why. You said that in your earlier answer. You do need to let people know why are we going, why do we have to change this now? You know, why can't we wait 6 months from now and do this? Why can't we do this a year from now? I think you have to really answer that why question, and each stakeholder is going to need a different answer for that particular question.
Our boss gave us the book Good to Great. It talked about making sure that you're on the right bus, or at least the right seat on the bus. So we try to find, you know, if there is resistance, you know, if they're in the right job. The other thing that we found is when we have a person that's resistant, we give them an assignment as part of that job we want to do. So we get them engaged and make them part of it, and then they become a defender. Yeah.
And don't be too worried or put off by negative energy. One of the most motivating things is anger or frustration. If somebody's frustrated and they actually really do care, and you can channel that frustration into the direction you want to go, wow, it can be powerful. They'll break through walls to get rid of what frustrates them.
I became a trained facilitator for building teams. If anybody's ever been through a team building process, there's 4 steps: norming, forming, storming, norming, performing.
Interesting. Well, that kind of brings me to my next question. I'll get back to the audience in a second here. What is the impact of informal leaders in your organization, and what impact can that have on change? Yeah, I think you're maybe talking about the Dragon Slayer, you're talking about bringing them in. How do you deal with the informal leaders?
20 years ago, we had, early in our existence, we had a union movement. We counted on our informal leaders to help us out, and we got a 85% vote of confidence. That's the votes were. So we feel very strongly in using our informal leaders. We not only get their input, but rely on them to help sell the jobs. Quite often, they're more in tune than the team leader is, because they're at the same level as is the other people on the shop floor.
Yeah. Terry?
Yeah, well, I would say there's leaders, there's already leaders in your organization at every level. There's leaders at the asset level, there's leaders at the supervisor level, there's leaders at the manager levels. The guys you know to go to, or the gals that you know to go to when you really need something at that level. And I agree, I think people down at the asset level, sometimes when I'm in there and I'll ask them a question, they'll come back and they'll say, well, I've worked here 20 years. And nobody ever asked me that. I think it's sad, because they've got a boatload of knowledge about the asset, about the system, about the way it works, about the way it fails, and oftentimes they are overlooked, and they are a complete untapped resource for most people. And so it's finding those leaders, engaging them, and empowering them. But I think a lot of that has to do with, they have to know you care about what they're saying.
It goes back to what you've heard from all of us. It's part of it is about how your culture is. Having gone through, as I said, we get probably 10 audits a year, and they go up to the employees and they'll do it in private rooms and ask them about, our mission statement, our vision statement, what's our quality motto, all those things, and they're always come back and impressed that they know what their job is, they know how their job affects, in our case, quality, and it's just a constant process of getting them, engaged in the process. It just kind of grows on them and gets them used to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd add that some objections and some negativity about your direction is to be expected, and you'll overcome it. If it becomes apparent that it's a wall, be willing to believe it's a wall. Sometimes the people in your organization are going to know that you're wrong, and you need to be ready to be wrong. Go in expecting that sometimes you will be wrong, and you'd rather learn early in the planning phase than by failing later in implementation.
Excellent point.
I think one more in working with Jim and his organization is that both his president and the CEO can talk super intelligently about this topic. So in other words, when they talk, I'm sure the people at the front line are very impressed with the fact that it's an executive level and they can actually speak about reliability, asset management, the benefits of IoT. They're quite legitimate in their conversation, where in some organizations, you wonder if the executives really are clued into what's happening.
I don't want to get too many cliches in here, but 2 that are appropriate to this whole conversation is, 1, no one person is smarter than a group of people. We honestly believe that. And the other one is we have up on our board where first of all, if you go in our conference room, you'll see Dilbert things on the wall. And every one of those Dilbert things happen in that room. That's where we're having to move. So if it didn't happen, it doesn't make the wall. And we have another saying that's USA, not United States of America. Understand, automate, simplify. Understand, simplify, automate.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Alzheimer's is kicking in early.
I have a question about tennis. You started saying safety is everyone's job and reliability should be everyone's job.
Everyone's responsibility.
Everyone's responsibility, and we agree, nothing wrong with that. In safety, when we hire a new person from school, it's very easy to teach safety. They can see, they can feel, they can measure. If you have a flare or a release of benzene, you do 1, 2, 3, and they can see the benzene. They can even, there is a detector to do all these things. In the reliability, still after so many years, you cannot do that. You cannot say, what is the reliability of compressor or your pump or your unit, right? So it's very easy to say it's everyone's ability, but it's hard to say. So far, reliability is a statistical exercise, an experts exercise only. I didn't see anything else. I mean, even if I buy a car, I look at the statistics of the different Honda versus Mercedes. It's a statistical activity, the reliability.
You can measure safety with statistics, you can measure
No,
reliability with...
but safety is direct measurement. I can detect the release
So is
of
reliability.
the thing.
It's reliability I can directly measure in any plant I can go into. I can directly measure the failures, the number of failures, and the amount of time between the
But
failures.
that's a
So
statistical exercise. It's not a memeasurement. It's
And so-
an infer
Yeah.
activity. You infer that it's going to fail.
25 years ago, we took a stand that we weren't going to have people die at work anymore. So what we can do is take a stand that we won't kill our machines anymore. So it's a set of behaviors in addition to the statistical. What we've found is that in addition to the technical, in addition to the statistical, it's cultural and it's behavioral. So we need to get into the belief system. We need to get into the cultural system to have reliability, very much the way that safety was transformed over time. Anybody who worked in industry 25 years ago knows that it was a different context for safety 25 years ago than it is today. And we made that journey, but we made the journey based on a stand. Now, safety has something reliability doesn't. It's called litigation. And so CEOs understand litigation pretty well, and they'll make sure that that's driven through their organization. But reliability is very much the same way. It's a set. What we're finding is that yes, there's technical activities, there's statistics, there's measurements, but what we really want to do is get into the way that people think, the language that they use and the way they think, which drives their behaviors. If we can create their behaviors as reliable, and depending on their role, that's different. Each set of behaviors is different, but if we can get into their behaviors and we can get into their thought process about reliability, then we can have statistical reliability follow that. What happens is we try to engineer reliability without taking care of that, and it fails 70% of the time over the last 40 years.
If you looked at, Terry flashed up real quickly the reliability web elements, and there's an element in there called ODR, operator-driven reliability. That's a big buzzword in the maintenance of reliability. And that's a process of trying to educate. By assigning them tasks, you're trying to educate them to understand reliability a little more. You're right, people aren't coming in with inherent ideas of what reliability is, like where you are on safety. But you got to have a process. It's another one of those steps of getting that process of and it's a continuum moving on. Is we didn't do that. We're trying to get that engaged now because we feel our workforce is ready for that.
And
now.
it's a journey.
And it's a journey.
What I can tell you is if you don't have a reliability strategy, then your machine failures will schedule their own repairs. If you do have a reliability strategy and a plan for reliability engineering, you can measurably increase the efficiency and effectiveness of your plant. What do you want to do? Just let it happen to you? Or do you want to have a strategy of how your organization is going to make itself more reliable?
Strategy is a time, because this is always you have a strategy. After 2,000 hours, you do that. After 3,000 hours, you change the order.
No, that's time-based, that's not strategy.
No.
That's what we do. because
I
we
can
cannot-
tell you that I have about 800 robots in my plant, and I don't run any one of them the same. I've got some that I'm going to abuse the hell out of intentionally, and I need to time my maintenance accordingly, because I might blow it up in 600 hours, even though it was supposedly rated at 3,000. It's got so much to do with how you actually use it. If I crash it, I've reduced its life. I need to measure all that, and I need to anticipate and predict when I'm going to intervene on my schedule and not the machine's schedule.
But I think where you're going with it is that, in at least my position, is that even if you came up with the best technical strategy and the best technical set of tasks that you were going to do, you had the world's most perfect maintenance program of some division of condition monitoring and time-based tasks, you're still open to 40% defects that are going to cause downtime for you. So you can't solve every problem with the maintenance approach. You can't solve every reliability issue that you have with the reliability approach. This is why we focus on behavioral and some sort of common language, knowledge, and cultural approach to it, because the other people in the organization are bringing in defects faster than the inspection and the prevention system can remove those defects. And we need to stem those defects at the source. That's cultural and behavioral. You'll never fix that through technical approaches. That'll never be stopped through technical approaches, no matter how well IoT works.
Just an example, I believe my car is due for an oil change, but I know what the mileage says, but the indicator says that I still have like 30% oil life left. I'm not going to run out and get my oil changed at 30%. I'm going to run it down a little lower. So I think that time-based is not the best all the time. I mean, it can work for some assets. If you consider that reliability is that an asset will be available and it will operate as it should when it's called upon, when necessary, can't you measure the times that it's not and come up with some kind of indicator of why, of how many times that fails, and maybe we need to address that? That's reliability. Okay, we are out of time. I think it was a good session. Thank you so much to our panelists.